Hello, welcome. I'm Pauline from PQW and I'm here to share with you some little hints and tips on doing a binding. We're just releasing a new tool into our range of our sasha collection, and we've called it the Magic Binding Tool. Now this tool is going to make a lovely sashing that's got a little peeper strip or a flange, or you might call it a binding around the edge. So we'll just have a look at this quilt here. You can see I've got the little mauve trim coming out. I'm going to take you through and show you how we do that. And you can do any different sizes that you want. And when we look at the quilt on the back here, you'll see that we've put the little black and white stripe feature in the binding because the green blended in too much, so we put the little black and white stripe in there. It's a very, very simple process to make a beautiful binding like that. Usually when I do a binding like this on a quilt with this little peeper strip hanging out the edge, I usually stitch it on from the back. The binding goes on from the back, we roll it over to the front, we glue it down with the Roxanne glue basted, and then we stitch right in the ditch using the monopoly clear thread. Then you get a perfect finish to your binding and you don't have to hand stitch it down. So easy to do. So let's just show you some of the tools that I use and recommend, and then I'll show you how I make a binding with that little peeper, flange, binding, whatever you like to call it. People call it all different names. So this is our little magic binding tool. It's, as I said, it's just new in our range. These orange ones are the ones that we use if we just do a normal binding. So if we cut our binding strip 2.5 inches wide, we fold it in half, it measures 1.25 inches, so we'd use the 1.25 inch tool. If we cut our binding strips 2.25, fold it in half, it measures 1.1/8, we'd use the 1.1/8. So you can mix up your tools and do all sorts of different bindings. So just to make a simple binding, I'll show you that in a moment, but the Duo tool that I've designed is for cutting your strips for the binding, and it's also for joining the angle joins, and it's for joining the end of your binding. Now, to see how to use this ruler, there is a video on our YouTube channel showing you step by step by step how to use this ruler. Also, there's classes on our YouTube channel on how to use all of these tools to make some very special bindings. I use monopoly thread to stitch my bindings down on the front in the ditch. I have it in the top and the bobbin. I use the Roxanne glue basted to glue the binding down so I don't have to pin it or clip it. It just holds it there perfect. It doesn't move anywhere. I use the titanium top stitch needles because they penetrate through all the bulk that I'm sewing through, so it's really fabulous stuff. Let me show you how to make a basic binding using one of the orange tools, and then we'll move on and we'll do a magic binding for you. And I just love the effect that it gives to our quilts. If you want, you can join your binding strips on the angle, particularly if you've got a lot of scraps left over from your quilt. It's a great idea to just join them all together. If you've got some jelly roll strips left over, they make fabulous bindings also. And don't worry if they've got that pinked edge on the side, because that will just be folded over to the back. So we're going to fold this in half. It's a 2.5 inch wide strip. Press it. Now measures 1.25 inches. Hold the tool by the handle, come up from the bottom and go down. Pin into your ironing surface with your double fork pin. I'll just move these two pins out of the road. Hold the fabric nice and taut, and then all you do is push with the iron. We'll just turn it a bit. Put the side of the iron into the curve of the tool, and you just push it along. And you just keep moving the pin down your ironing surface and keep on pressing till you get your whole binding strip done. Now, if you've got a binding that you've got the joins in, once you've put the join in, press all the seams going the way that you're going to be pressing with the tool. We'll fold this in half. And I just want to do this so you can see how to go over that join. Come up from the bottom, back down. Just pin again. Now, when I get to this join, we're going to be pushing along with the iron. When we get close to the join, we just tap with the iron. And when we get down to the next join, just tap with the iron. And that takes you over that seam beautifully, and you don't get any, the seam doesn't flip, and it just sits nice and perfect for you. Now we're going to do the magic binding. So using 2 different coloured fabrics, choose which you want to be your actual binding, and then choose what you want to be your little peeper. Your binding strip is cut 1 3/4 inches wide. And on the tools, when you purchase the tools, we have all the instructions on the back. So there's no need to worry about what the measurements are you need to use. They're all written out here for you. The one for the peeper, as I said, is cut 1 3/4. The contrast is cut 1 1/2. Seam them together with a 1/4 inch seam all the way through. Then we're going to fold this over. We're going to push the seam to the contrast fabric. Fold this over to the seam. Oops. So fold over till the edges meet. Sorry, I said to the seam, but it's not. It's till the edges meet. Press the first inch or 2. Grab your magic binding tool by the handle. Put it into the tool. Up and over. Pin again into your ironing surface. Hold the fabric nice and firm, and just be sure that those edges are level, and off you go. And it just makes that little edge come out perfect. And I think you'll agree that it's much easier to do it like that than standing at the ironing board trying to fold this and get it all even, because you know that you'll be burning your fingers all the way. So that's why I've designed that tool, to make that process of making that beautiful binding come out absolutely perfect. But as I said, have a look at the other videos on my website. Have a look at the little class I've presented in making different sorts of bindings, because we've done in that class we do bindings that are on the bias, show you how to use the tool. Even when you do your binding on the bias, you can put a little flange on it. So there's no reason why you can't make a beautiful edge to your quilt. So remember, it's all about the right tools. Use the glue, because when I stitch this on, I'll just see what I've got here. We've stitched this on from the wrong side. This is the wrong side of the sample. Go over to the front, get your glue, put little dots of glue all the way along. Fold this over right onto the stitching line. So this, just grab this. This little stitching line here is aligned with the stitching line that I stitched the binding on with. And we just simply press with the iron. And the glue holds that binding in place for you perfectly while you go to your machine, and you're just going to then stitch in the ditch. And if you folded right back to that stitching line, when you stitch in the ditch, you'll be stitching in the ditch on the back. But having this monopoly thread in your top and bobbin, if you run out of the ditch, you're not going to see it. So that's why I use this thread to do that sort of stitching. So I hope you're going to enjoy the magic binding tool. We've loved developing this and designing it for you. They are the original sashes, and I want to really point that out, because a lot of people are copying our tools, and people are going to get sick of me saying that, but I'm really upset that somebody's copied us and they're not selling a product that's accurate and that they'll possibly melt. We can guarantee ours will be perfect. So have fun making all your bindings, because I just think it adds such a lovely interest to your quilts. Have fun with the sasha tools, because we have 22 different sizes. Some of them have wider splits than others. Some of them are longer. You can do all sorts of things with the sashes. This is a repurposed quilt. This was a very old quilt and I didn't like it, so we've cut it up and we've put it back together. And this is where we've joined it in our Quilt As You Go technique. So we've used a sasha tool to put here. We've used the sasha tool to make the stems of the flowers. So they're not a tool for just one purpose. They have lots of purposes. So have fun with your tools and have fun learning. Have a look at all of our videos on our YouTube channel. There's lots there for you to learn from. Subscribe when you go onto our YouTube channel because we want you to get a notification when we put new videos up for you. And also go to our website, www.pqw.com.au. Sorry, that was wrong. www.pqw.com.au. It's up here. So have fun, subscribe to our newsletters because we're going to be doing some very interesting things through our newsletters for you all too. So have fun creating some beautiful bindings, and we'd love to see what you do. Till next time, bye for now.